stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.
Hello and welcome again to We Are Mighty. I am LaTanya Cross, aka Mighty's mama. Who is Mighty? My son Miles, my beloved son, who was taken from us way too soon, July of 2023. And through this podcast, his memory, his legacy lives on. How y'all doing? How's the last couple weeks been? A lot has happened since I've seen you guys last. Correction, I never see you, you see me. But still, a lot has happened since we've last spoken. It's just been a whirlwind of emotions, a whirlwind of events, I guess to say. And I'm a little tired, but I'm here with you. As always, as promised, I'll never leave you, and I hope you never leave me, because this journey is something else. That's all I can say about it. Grief is a sneaky thing. Grief is a scary thing. Grief is unpredictable. Grief is everything you expect it to be and more. Things that you don't expect it to be. Things that you would never expect it to be. But it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the process. And it's all part of putting the pieces back together and learning to live with your grief and not having that grief consume your life. So what's happened since I've talked to you guys last? Let's see. There was a graduation here locally for an organization that I actually attended. I had taken the courses and graduated from this class as well. And I was actually asked to be the keynote speaker. Crazy, right? But I felt it was an honor, and I was happy to do so. And of course, in speaking to the participants, the graduates, it was an equity in board representation class, and basically about learning the steps, what you need to do to be a part of a board, to be a part of possibly a government agency or different boards around our city that need people of color represented, to be honest. And so it was a class that was teaching us things to prepare us for something such as being a part of a board or being part of a committee. I myself have been appointed by the mayor to our local violence prevention coordinating council. Of course, something that I feel very strongly about, violence prevention, after what happened to my son. But actually, I was an advocate prior to, so it truly fit. But at this graduation, I was asked to speak about using your passion, going after your passion in being represented on these types of boards, and how it's important that you are pursuing your passion. And so I talked about being a part of this committee and how I am very passionate about violence prevention and how it really, hits home for me. And it was interesting because at this graduation, a gentleman said to me, your words really hit me, and I feel like this is your purpose. And I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. And he said to me, sometimes when we have tragedy, God uses those tragedies to pull out our purpose and to get us to focus on our purpose. And I'm thinking, okay, now in my head, I'm like, okay, what's the difference between passion and purpose? Because I'm thinking it's pretty much the same thing, right? And it was just weird to me because I try to plan ahead a little bit of what I'll be talking about on my podcast. And I had said I was going to be speaking on purpose on this week's podcast. And then I speak at this graduation and told to focus on passion. And I'm like, maybe I'll speak on passion. Then I talked to this gentleman and he mentions my purpose. And then just recently in our town, we had a homicide victims memorial. And it's exactly what it says. It was a memorial for families who have been victims of homicide, who basically they lost a loved one at the hands of another. And so I didn't know if I wanted to go to this because I knew it was going to be very difficult for me. I knew it was going to be a trigger for sure. And I wasn't going to go. I had it on my calendar, but then I kind of forgot about it. And it just so happened the day of, someone mentioned it to me again. And I said to them that I would be there. So I quickly, after work, went home, changed clothes, and went to the service. It actually was a beautiful service. It was very, very difficult for me, especially being that it hasn't been a year since my son passed away and all of these other people in the room. But the thing about it was, and what they said, was that the people in this room let you know that you're not alone. And that was one thing that I took comfort in. Now, did I cry? Oh, I cried a lot. They have you bring a picture of your loved one, and there's a candle lighting ceremony, and they call each person by name and have you go up and, light the candle for your loved one. Just taking the picture in and putting it on the table, I lost it. It was very, very difficult. But I'm glad that I went. I'm glad because there were words of encouragement. They were speaking of a grief support group that our state's attorney puts on once a month. I had known about it, but I didn't really know when the meetings were. So that just threw out a resource for me. But there were people who were affected by violence who spoke about their loved one and, how much it meant to them to have a platform where they could just not necessarily support, but where they could be expressive, of their feelings. And a lot of them were unsolved situations such as mine. So, to get the comfort from people, other mothers who have had to go through this tragedy. And as they said, it's the club that nobody wants to be a part of. Although it's a club nobody wants to be a part of, we're all there. We were all a part of it, and we were able to be a support for each other. So I got to experience the memorial service for the first time. And at the end of the service, they did a balloon release with a gentleman playing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. It was really beautiful. And it still had me thinking about my purpose because there was a lady there who I had never seen before, but she came up and she hugged me and said, I've been wanting to talk to you for so long to tell you I'm so sorry for your loss, but I just want you to know that every Sunday when you're up there in church, I'm in the back and I hear every word that you're saying, and we're here and we're praying for you. Now, knowing how active I am in our church and how much my husband and I do, you would think I've seen this lady. I had never seen her before. But it was just like she was just telling me, keep doing what you're doing. Because I won't lie, there's times when I just get tired and I feel like it's ineffective. I'm wasting my breath. Nothing's getting through to anyone. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been reminded that, there are people listening. And I've been taking a deeper look at my passion versus my purpose. So I actually looked up the difference between your passion and your purpose. And I saw the definition of passion said that it's like a strong fondness or enthusiasm or desire for anything. That's from dictionary.com. And purpose, it said, is the reason that something exists or is done, made, or used. Literally, it says your purpose is the reason that you are put on this earth. Your passion can fuel your purpose, but your purpose is why you are here. So it went a little bit further to say that your passion is actually what's for you, and your purpose is for others. And I was, trying to get an understanding of what do you mean as far as for me? Is it being selfish? My passion is a selfish thing to say. No, it said it was more of being self-purposing. It's emotion driven. It is what you do. Your passion is what you do, whereas your purpose is why you do it. And so I've been thinking about that. Like, I know I have a passion for violence prevention right now, especially after what happened with my son. But I had a passion for that prior to. And as far as my purpose, I feel like right now, having this podcast, having this platform to speak to whomever is watching, whomever is listening, I'm living in my purpose. I feel like I have a voice, and there are people who want to hear it. And there are things that I can say that will help people who are dealing with violent crimes happening in their family, losing a loved one, dealing with the grief. And being that I'm going through this process, I'm being a voice for them. So I'm happy to see that out of this tragedy, my purpose has been revealed to me. At least that's what I feel right now. I don't think your purpose changes, but I do believe that I was put here on this earth to be a voice for some people. I was put here to make sure my voice is heard, to fight. I've always been a fighter, whether physically or figuratively. But I feel like that's why I'm here. And so I'm going to continue. I'm not going to give up. I may not be a superstar influencer, and that's okay, because that was never my goal. My goal was just to be able to reach people and to have someone actually at the graduation come to me and hug me and tell me, I've seen your podcast. You've been so helpful. I lost a child, not in the same way, but it's still grief. And I agree. It's still grief. But for her to tell me that this podcast is helpful to her makes it all worth it. And I hope it's helpful to every one of you who is watching as well. She's not the only person who has said something to me about seeing my podcast. There's some people who I know support me in things that I do. I don't want to say no matter what, but they pretty much support me either way. So this person was a stranger. She's not a stranger anymore. She's my sister. But for her to come up to me and tell me that she's watching my podcast and it's helpful to her makes me feel like I'm doing something right. And it's making it a little bit easier to deal with this journey, to continue on this journey, to even jot down when certain things happen, to say, oh, I may want to speak about this out on my podcast. It's weird, but I feel like I'm sure I'm not the only person who's dealt with this. So I'm going to talk about it because it may help someone else to hear that I'm going through the same thing that they are. Mother's Day was difficult. We talked about that. Memorial Day was difficult. No, my son was not a veteran, but just in memory of him, it was difficult to go through that day. I've had days lately where literally out of nowhere, I'm just in tears. But I take that moment, I try to take a step back, clear my face and move forward. words trigger sometimes. A beautiful day sometimes can be a trigger because my baby's not here to see it. It's crazy. It is a roller coaster, but we are going to make it through this together. So I hope you take a moment and think about, what is your passion? What are your passions? Because you can have multiple. There could be many things that you just take delight in, that you just do because it makes you feel fulfilled. I don't know if I could say it makes you happy, because right now, the things that I'm dealing with as far as violent crimes and crime prevention and trying to make sure crime is reduced, I can't say that it's making me happy, but it's necessary. It's a fulfillment. It's a fulfillment of a desire for me, a desire that was catapulted, that became a lot stronger because it hit way closer to home than I'd ever expected. Again, I had a passion for violent crime prevention prior to it taking my son. The fact that it took my son just made me want to fight even harder. Fight for justice, fight for prevention, fight for whatever is necessary to deter these people from taking this route, from turning to such a finite, I guess you can call it a solution, but I don't know that it's even a solution, because all it does is starts a snowball that continues to roll and get bigger and bigger, and it gets worse and worse, especially for the person who has committed the crime. I just cannot believe that someone who has committed a crime and got away with it is just fine living day to day. There has to be something that's eating at them, saying, you know what you did. How do you live with yourself knowing that you took someone's life, that you took someone's money, that you burglarized someone's business? Like I said, it may be a temporary solution for that person, but I have a hard time believing in the long run that they're able to just go about their life day by day as if it never happened. I'm willing to bet that it sneaks up on them just like grief sneaks up on their victims, the remaining victims. Just like we go by day, and out of nowhere something makes us think about our loved one who was taken from us. I'll bet they can just be walking down the street and something hits them and they may think, I took that person's life. They see a police car. They don't know if they got more information. There has to be a life of paranoia for someone who, quote unquote, got away with something for however long it goes. And of course, the hope and the prayers that the truth comes out sooner rather than later. There was a lady who took me in when I was younger. My grandmother died at a very young age, and her granddaughter and I were very close friends, and her daughter and my mom were very close friends. And so she just made me an honorary granddaughter of hers. I called her Granny. She would introduce me to people as her granddaughter. She was brutally murdered. And it took almost 20 years for them to convict the person who did that. And this just happened earlier this year. Is it closure for her family? I'm sure it is, but look how long that took. I don't want it to take that long for the person who did this to my son to pay for it. I wouldn't want it to take that long for anyone who has been hit with any type of crime, any type of pain at the hands of another, to get justice for it. So I fight. I fight in many ways. As a result of speaking at that graduation, I've had others come to me, and I have other speaking engagements coming along for anti-violence, anti-crime rallies and things of that nature. And I'm excited about it because I'm willing to fight, because that's my passion. I'm not saying any of you who are dealing with whatever type of grief you're dealing with, that that's what you have to do. But maybe think about what your passion is. Because grief will take you away from that. Grief will take your focus away from the things that you were working towards prior to it happening. And maybe if you can take the time to consider what your passion is, what your purpose is, what you really want to do, that might help you to move forward with a little less of the pain from the grief. It's not going to take it away. It absolutely has not taken away my pain. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who are on the committee with me ask me if I'm okay when they talk about, the violent situations. I'm okay. And there are times when I'm not. Luckily, I'm in a space where they are all there for me and they're supportive and they understand. But it doesn't stop my fight. It doesn't stop my passion, and it will not stop my purpose. I'm going to fight. I'm going to do whatever I can, whether I'm recognized or not, because I don't do it to be recognized. I do it for the results. If I can stop one family out of 2,000 from having to deal with what I had to deal with, then I've done something. One will become two, will become three, and so on and so on. But I definitely want to be here to help people. Again, that's the reason that I sit here in front of a camera and pour my heart out to you. There's a need for it. There's a need for an outlet. There's a need for resources. And I'm trying my best to provide those things. So more to come. More to come as I live out my passion, as I walk in my purpose. And I try to walk tall, boldly, strongly, because I know now I'm walking in my purpose. I am moving in my purpose. I am moving towards doing what I feel I was put on this earth to do. And in the process of doing so, I am making sure that my son's legacy never dies. My son's memory never dies. People will know how amazing he was. And it's not just through me. There's lots of people who feel the same. But you're going to hear it from me. Not just because I'm his mama and I raised him and I know the values that I taught him, but because I saw the impact that he had the day of his funeral. Not only the day of his funeral, in the days after this tragedy hit, the people who came forward, the people who called me, the cards and things I got in the mail from people who did not know me, but knew my son. So I know that his impact was great and much more far-reaching than I ever thought. And I'm proud of him for that. 24 years was way too short of a time for him to be here. But in that time, he reached so many people that I am setting out to do the same. I hope you can take a moment to realize your passion. And no, it doesn't have to happen in an instant. Think about it. What are the things that drive you? What are the things that make you fulfilled? And then what is your purpose? What is that thing that you were placed on this earth to do? And once you realize that, once you recognize that, live in it. Work towards it. Be outspoken. Be bold. Be mighty. You have my permission, because I'm going to do it right with you. In all you do, be true to yourself. Be strong and be mighty. We are here every other Friday, everywhere that you listen to your podcast, and you can see us on Spotify and YouTube. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast, if you'd like to be a guest, if you'd like to send questions or scenarios or anything that you'd like for me to discuss, please email us at wearemighty, WEAREMIGHTY 24 I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you next time.
They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.